party people. I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about. Well done. I am so pleased to announce our next speaker who will be talking on the science of mindfulness. If you get a chance, once the doors open to the A Lodge after his session, they'll open at 6 o'clock. So after his session, go out there. He is the co-founder of inHarmony Interactive. They have a booth out there with sound lounges. It's amazing, all that. I can tell you all that. But make sure you go catch it. He's brilliant. I'm so grateful that he is with us. Please welcome to the stage, Craig Goldberg.
Thank you. This is awesome. How's everybody doing tonight? All right, this is my kind of crowd. Can we get like super weird? Is that cool? Talk about like the really weird shit? But let's be grounded in science and research. Does that sound good? Because I like to do the weird shit, but I like to know why I'm doing it, why it's so important. I like to correlate data. It won't get too thick, too heavy. And then once I explain to you why we're doing it, then we'll drop in, we'll have a pretty awesome experience. And we're going to drop into what I call music meditation. I'm going to guide you through visualization, and we're going to talk a little bit about why it's so important. Does that sound good? All right, my company's inHarmony. Why am I here? And basically for the better part of the last 6.5, 7 years, I've studied sound and frequency and its impact on our physiology. It's pretty awesome. I'm looking at all these different experiences, all the different yoga instructors. It's not just their spoken voice. They're actually pumping sound and frequencies through the speakers, sharing your entire body is picking up on every bit of that. And we're going to talk about why towards the end. We're also going to share with you a little correlation of data that kind of brings together what happens when we close our eyes to meditate. I know we think it feels really good. We think we're getting to that right place, but there's nobody that can tell you if you're meditating right. It's a pretty weird thing, right? Like, all right, let's sit down and meditate. And I'm going to sit in front of you and tell you you're doing it wrong? No, however, right? That's just not going to happen. But we all have this little negative self-talk that echoes in our head. If it sounds like my voice in your head, that's weird. It probably sounds like your voice in your head telling you that you might not be doing it right. And that's all by design, and it's really healthy. But we also need to train that. We're going to talk about that towards the end as well. It's going to take a little more than 15 minutes, but I like science, I like practical benefits, and this little correlation of data that I pulled together about 1.5 years ago that just kind of blew my mind, especially as you start to study frequency and the environment that we're in, the brain, the mind, and how it all works together. So I want to start with a visualization exercise. How many people meditate or have a visualization practice? This is so my crowd. Okay, cool. So I'm going to walk you through just a little bit of a guided visualization. How many people were here for the last talk? Donnie, Darren, they're both awesome. Darren has my tech, so does Donnie, separate and all awesome at the same time. It's really important that we have that visualization practice, and we're going to talk about that and why. But first I want to start with some sound and some frequency, which hopefully is going to kick in any minute now. We'll see. I hit it again. Maybe. And again. And again. All right, I want everybody to, if you will, just close your eyes. How about that? There it is. All right, crank this nice and loud. So not only do I want you to listen to my voice, but I want you to feel the vibrations coming through this stack of speakers, maybe just a little lower. I feel that up here. I know you guys feel that down there. So I want to start with gratitude. I want you to think of one thing you're super grateful for. Maybe it's a human being, maybe it's an experience, maybe it's being right here, right now. I want you to just resonate in that for a moment or two. Take a deep cleansing breath in through the nose and hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. Hold. One more deep cleansing breath in through the nose. Hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. as you continue to breathe like that, I want you to imagine this energy center sitting inside you. Let's call this your gratitude center. I want you to push that out away from you, enveloping everybody in this room. And I want you to visualize that glowing light expanding out, covering everybody that's in here. We'll start with us. Deep cleansing breath in. Exhale toxins out. And as you exhale, you push that glowing orb of gratitude out. And you cover everybody here at area 15. Another deep cleansing breath in through the nose. And hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. And as you do, you push that orb all over the valley of Las Vegas, enveloping everyone in that orb of gratitude. Yeah. I visualize a smile coming across everybody's face in the entire valley at one time, wondering what they're so giddy and excited about as they get hit with my orb of gratitude. Oh yeah, everybody's smiling when you do it. It's really awesome. Another deep cleansing breath in through the nose. And hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. And as you do, that orb pushes out. We'll just skip straight to the entire globe. Everybody on the planet is now enveloped. One more deep cleansing breath in through the nose. Hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. And as you do, every being in the universe, we're not alone. They were just here last week. All right, you can pull that down, volume. Yeah, all right, so we're gonna drop into this a hell of a lot more in about 20-25 minutes. I wanted you guys to get a feel for what that's all about. So not only were you hearing that music, but you were also feeling it. There are mechanoreceptors in our skin that allow us to interpret changes in pressure. Most people don't realize when we hear something, you're not actually hearing the vibration of sound. Your ear is picking up on a change in pressure and translating that into sound in your brain instantaneously. It's pretty wild. 30% of your hearing is through the eyes, which is why all of you are making such great eye contact with me. You're telling your brain to focus on what Craig is saying right now. Pretty wild. So there's an awful lot that goes into processing sound and frequency, and a majority is actually through those mechanoreceptors in our skin. We're going to talk about that afterwards. I don't think I have to tell you what's going on in healthcare today. People are tired, they're stressed, they're anxious. My wife is here. She could tell you the last 8 days of my life have been unbelievably stressful. This beautiful human right here, one of the best and most talented energy workers on the planet, I've been calling and texting him every morning like, dude, I need help. And he's checking in like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, pretty stressed, right? But I have the tools, and I can stand before you, and we can talk about it. And it's all in due time, right? We all have a to-do list that's going and going and going. If you're married to my wife, you have a honey-do list that just doesn't end. I cross things off, and they come back. I cross things off, and they come back. Absolutely remarkable. We all have that. We're a busy culture. So I don't have to tell you what's going on in healthcare today, right? Average American, stressed and anxious. The numbers are staggering. It's actually pretty scary what's happening in the world today. The headlines are all around us, and this CDC wants to tell us how things aren't good, and we could talk about the CDC and a bunch of other stuff later, but these are two of my favorite human beings on the planet, Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla. You guys familiar with these two humans? Probably, right? Everything in life is vibration. If you want to find the secrets to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. What I'm going to share with you today is that everything is vibration. So I started a company where we talk about vibration and frequency, but the reason I started that company is because everything is frequency and vibration. It all comes right back to your mindset, Tim Lang, your thoughts, what you have going on, and the way that you show up, and the things that you can do to change your state. And listening to music is one of those things. I've seen you in your car singing along to whatever your favorite music is, and whatever your favorite music is your favorite music, right? I might not love it, but you love it, and that's what it's all about. So we're going to talk a lot about frequency and vibration, and really we're going to talk about the law of vibration. I'm going to put a bunch of text up here, and we're going to talk about exactly what this is, but basically at the quantum level, okay, this is like some 7th grade science stuff, and this is as deep as we're going to get on this particular front. But basically everything is vibrating, right? Protons, neutrons, electrons, the elements of the periodic table, how these elements are bonding with one another. It all comes down to protons, neutrons, electrons, the quantum field, and all the other magic that's happening there. And I'm happy to send this deck to anybody who wants it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But basically, quantum physicists are doing some pretty crazy stuff right now. We can't really talk about the power of water and its ability to remember and transmit, but there's some really heavy stuff that's happening right now in this particular field. Everything in life is vibration. It's all vibrating. It's all in motion. Everything. Even the stage that I'm standing on right now, at a quantum level, is moving. Your skin, it's moving. Psychedelics aside, it's all moving. And this, to me, is like the most amazing thing ever. I really want to dissect and understand what that is. And it comes down to these 5 senses and how we perceive the world around us. So everything is vibrating and everything's in motion. Everything has a resonant frequency. So the resonant frequency of the molecules that make up this stage make it appear solid in this state. So for me, I can stand on this. Jordan was just on here Friday night rocking, right? But it's solid. I'm not going to fall through. It's in this 3D world, it is solid. And that's because it's at its resonant frequency. Everything that's vibrating has its own resonant frequency. The human body also has a resonant frequency. And this is some riveting science. So depending on which study you look at, whether Harvard or Stanford, they each have studies on resonant frequency of the human body. That resonant frequency is somewhere between 5 hertz and 16 hertz. Okay, so without getting into the science, and I'll footnote it, and it's right down there. You can look up these scientific studies and this research. But you can start to look at the resonant frequency. Can we go to the next slide? There it is. Between 5 and 16 hertz. Okay, so let's talk about frequency for a second. Going back to an oscillation, one waveform is one frequency. Okay, so we can actually measure how fast our brain synapses are firing in our brain. And this guy Hans Berger in 1924, that's like a really early EEG, an echoencephalograph. We can actually study and notice how fast different parts of our brain are firing. Y'all have heard the expression, we only use 10% of our brains. Not entirely true. Hate to break this to you, you use your entire brain. But at any one time, you're only using 1 part or 2 parts or 3 parts of your brain. So the entire thing isn't firing at one time. You could take this EEG, has 19 points on it, and we can actually study exactly what's happening and exactly how fast the synapses in your brain are firing. And here's exactly what those 5 brain waves are. We've got gamma at the top, beta. Beta is kind of your eyes are open. You're processing the world around you. Gamma is associated with higher states of consciousness. Right now, all of your eyes, for the most part, are open. You're focused on what I'm saying. You're processing something like 4 billion bits of information per second in your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind can handle 4. So think about how much your brain, they really are supercomputers, and there really is a lot that's happening. When your eyes are opening and you're processing the world around you, that's when, that's when all that's happening, and it's also all being filtered out. Alpha is directly below that. It's measured between 7.5 hertz up to 14 hertz, sometimes 12 hertz, depending on where you look. And then below that is theta. It's where we are during rapid eye movement. Alpha is like a daydreamy state. It's where we are kind of when you nap. Like I took a 20-minute power nap today. I didn't quite make it into theta. I hang out in alpha. It's very rejuvenative. It's very restorative. And then all the way down at the bottom, we've got delta. And if you've ever tried to move a friend and it's like moving dead weight, they're in a delta brainwave state. That's where cellular regeneration happens. And it's also the deep sleep wave. So when you're like out cold, cellular regeneration is happening in that deep delta wave. And I'm hopefully going to get you there in a little bit. So if everything has its own resonant frequency, does the planet Earth? Okay. Turns out that it does. How many people have heard of the Schumann resonance? I have 2. How many people know where the Schumann resonance comes from? All right, you do now. Stop it, you've seen this before. All right, so until I did this talk, I'm going to admit, I had no idea where the Schumann resonance comes from. You hear it's like the heartbeat of the Earth. You hear it's like coming out from the Earth's core. I didn't realize that that's not actually where it comes from. So as it turns out, at any given time, right now, there's 2,000 thunderstorms that are happening all around the planet Earth. Every second, every second, 50 lightning strikes go from the sky to the ground. Each one of those lightning strikes emits a wave. And Schumann discovered this wave. And as it bounces from the ionosphere to the ground and the ionosphere to the ground, it starts to pick up on one another and collide and combine with one another. And that's exactly what Schumann discovered back in, I think, the late 40s or 50s. All right, that's, I think, a lot of science and a lot of research. How many people are familiar with breath of fire? So we're going to do a breath of fire together, all right? Just really, really quickly, and we'll put your arms in the air as well. So as you inhale, you're going to go, and as you exhale, you're going to blow snot all over yourself. It's going to be fantastic, right? Let's do it as a group. So we're just going to do this for just quickly, just because we just did a lot of science. I want to break from that. Ready? Arms in the air. Whew. All right, so that fast, you can breathe life in every cell in your body. I love that you keep going. Yeah, keep going. Why not? Man, I know I'm in the right place. The breath controls the mind controls the body. I know there's a number of really talented breath workers in here, and certainly a lot of samples that are happening here too. Breath work is everything. So once you command understanding of the breath and different repetitions, breath of fire is great. Box breathing is what we were doing during our opening activation as well. I don't recommend breathing fire. I have a few friends that do it. It's tough. So let's review. Everything has a resonant frequency. All right, we talked about the body having a resonant frequency. It's about 10 hertz, right? Let's split the difference between Harvard and Stanford, and let's go with 10 hertz. The brain has a resonant frequency of about 10 hertz. That target brainwave state for meditation and mindfulness is that 10 hertz frequency. And well, the Schumann resonance, technically it's 7.83 hertz. However, it fluctuates quite a bit, and it actually averages around 10 hertz. So as I'm doing this research and I'm starting to dig into, all of a sudden 10 hertz kept coming up. 10 hertz, 10 hertz, 10 hertz. How many people like getting out into nature? I absolutely love it. All right, so large bodies of water, when you measure their resonant frequency, 10 hertz. When you go off into the forest, resonant frequency, 10 hertz. When you go off into the desert, middle of nowhere, like many of us here like to do, 10 hertz. When you get away from large buildings, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all of the things that we emit here in buildings and in cities, resonant frequency of open air, 10 hertz. Pretty wild. Stand here, barefoot, soaking up this plastic on my feet. I don't know, Darren and Donnie were barefoot. I was like, I'll be barefoot. All right, so over and over again, we start to see 10 hertz. And now all of a sudden, I start to realize that target brainwave state for meditation is about 10 hertz. Closing your eyes, breath work, going inside, you start to drift out of a beta brainwave state and into an alpha brainwave state. And this was really interesting to me. So I wanted to understand better our relationship with the Schumann resonance. So it turns out another German scientist, this guy Rutger Weaver, in 1960, again, because the Schumann resonance is only above ground, he went into these World War II bunkers, and he took a bunch of his students down there too, and he began to study them. After 4 weeks of not experiencing and interacting with the Schumann resonance, wild things started to happen to his students. So they started getting sick, they started not to be able to remember things, brain fog, and all of the symptoms associated with brain fog started to kick in. They started to get mild colds and show kind of detox symptoms. Their speech started to slur in some cases. Their memory recall for language began to dissipate. And little by little, he would introduce what's called now a Schumann resonator. Basically a little thing in the corner that was 7.83 hertz, and almost instantaneously, all of their symptoms went away. I thought this was wild. Now all of a sudden, you gotta get out into nature, and you gotta start exposing yourself to 10 hertz, because this guy's been studying it, and they continue to do these things, and they continue to find that we need 10 hertz. And when you're inside a building, like I spend most of my time, like I am right now, with the lights and the electrical signature of every one of these lights that's connected by Wi-Fi back there, and everybody's wearing an Apple Watch, which I am too. Everybody's carrying those AirPods, right, which I use as well. And we're gonna kind of talk about a few of the things that you can do on that front too. So over the past 25 years, this Schumann resonance has actually been more and more difficult to pick up. In fact, over land, they can no longer pick up the Schumann resonance. in order for them to measure the Schumann resonance of the Earth, because it's lightning strikes and how they correlate to one another, they got to go off over the ocean and away from big cities and away from just land in general, which I thought was really wild. And it's an extremely low frequency. So it's not something that we can pick up. We can with instruments, and obviously the human body picks up on it, but it's those mechanoreceptors in the skin that are picking up on that. So I kind of talked about this a little bit. I hope nobody's using microwaves. But we're all familiar with electrical lines. We're all familiar with Wi-Fi. Like I said, I don't avoid this stuff. I use it. In fact, from my perspective, the benefits far outweigh the drawbacks. But regular exposure to this stuff, and again, this correlates almost exactly to the data that was brought about by Rucker-Weaver and people lacking access to the Schumann resonance. Headaches, blurred vision, skin irregularities, depression, hormonal disorders. This is the stuff that's plaguing America right now. These are the chronic issues that so many of us are dealing with, and so much of it has to do with spending time inside, not finding ways for us to drop in and connect with planet Earth, and being void of the Schumann resonance, which I think is something that's really, really important, obviously. Let's not be this guy, right? I don't think there's any value in walking around completely avoiding all this stuff. Frankly, I don't think it's possible, right? I mean, there's certainly people that try. I own and operate a company that's focused on sound and frequency. No joke, I had somebody call me and say, I don't have a smartphone, how do I listen to your music? And I was like, I'll send you some of the tracks, but like, what do you want my meditation seat for? And he told me, and he had good reasons for it, but he really tries, as part of his religion, to avoid as much smart technology as possible. Still uses Wi-Fi, but again, there's just, that 10 hertz frequency is what I just kept coming back to over and over and over. So we started with a visualization. We started with gratitude. So one of the solutions is actually for you to close your eyes and visualize. Visualize greatness, visualize all the abundance, connect to gratitude, and start to permeate that out. We are a social creature. Each and every one of you that are here, one of the reasons why we love events and why a lot of us struggled, I know I did during the pandemic, is because everything was shut down. We were stuck in our houses and we weren't connecting to other people. The downside to social distancing, and we can have a nice long conversation as to whether they knew that was the case or not. Dream big. The bigger your dreams, the bigger your reality becomes. Manifestation is a totally different talk that I do, but the reality is the more you dream and dream big, and more importantly, visualize yourself in that space. The brain can't actually tell the difference between a visualization, this reality, or a dream. That's really important because every second, your subconscious mind is processing 4 billion points of interest. And if you can sit down and do a little visualization, focus on some gratitude, focus on the manifestation and the things that you already have and that you want to add to what you have, or step into it, like if you want to drive a particular car or truck, don't visualize yourself one day having that truck. Visualize yourself driving that vehicle. What music are you playing? What does it feel like in the seat? Like literally, I visualize myself getting in the vehicle I want, adjusting the seat, picturing what the controls are going to look like, putting my hands on. My wife thinks I'm crazy. She walks in while I'm doing this. This is what you got to do, right? Is your hair blowing in the wind? What music are you playing when you're driving? Is there dirt and mud? Because I like trucks, so mostly everything that I visualize has to do with trucks, four-wheeling and playing in mud, like a kid. So dreaming big is a really big part of it and something that's really, really important. And then sharing that with other people. Believe it or not, I think these devices can actually help us. I use these devices as a tool. As long as you look at the data that they produce on a regular basis, as long as you're using it as part of work or an everyday situation, I'm obviously a big fan of these technologies and how they can help. Mostly though, we need to educate one another and we need to teach one another. We need to change the culture. I talk a lot in front of business settings and entrepreneurs, and I always ask like, hey, how okay would you be if anybody in your company came to you and say, hey, I'm tired, I need a nap? And it's funny because none of the entrepreneurs raise their hand. In fact, when I talk to executives, I'll ask, how okay would it be if you walked by a fellow executive's office and the lights were out and they were sleeping on the floor behind their desk? And everybody always laughs. They're like, that's ridiculous. The companies that allow it, look, if you don't get a good night's sleep, I have a 3-year-old, let me tell you about not getting sleep, okay? She comes into our bed in the middle of the night, she's scared. Where do we go back to your room? No, of course not, get into our bed. She sleeps great, I get feet in my chin, I get feet in my face. I don't sleep well. If your employees aren't sleeping well, one of the best things that you can do is give them a 2-hour nap. Let them know it's okay. Maybe they'll stay an extra 2 hours. Maybe they'll be twice as productive, or they'll actually be productive in the second half of that day. So I think a big piece of this is really changing the culture and making sure that we tell people that this is okay. Obviously, we have a technology company. This is what we do. We're focused on tech-assisted meditation. We're going to be set up outside. I present options that are shortcuts to reaching that deep meditative state. So if you're somebody who struggles with meditation, who struggles with achieving that 10 hertz frequency in an alpha brainwave state, I can take you there in a matter of probably about 5 minutes. Many of you I could probably take there much faster. Using tech-assisted meditation as a crutch, as a teacher, as a guide, I can actually make sure that you know exactly how to meditate, that you know exactly where you're getting and how deep you can actually go. And with our meditation cushion, it's exactly what we see. It's the feedback that we get. 20-year meditators that practice 20 minutes a day literally write testimonials to say, Craig, I had no idea I wasn't going as deep as I could go. Because sound and vibration actually guides you there, and that's what this next longer music meditation is all about. I'm going to let you really settle into the music, and I'm going to drop in myself. So you can come outside and you can check out our booth and hopefully experience our technology. Hopefully it got a little cooler outside. I think it was like 102 when I drove over here. Dave was on his bike. That was why he was laughing. No bike today. All right. So does anybody have any questions? I just covered like a ton. It really comes down to the importance of mindfulness and meditation. I talk to people all the time, myself included. 6.5 years ago, if you said, Craig, meditation's really important, I need you to go sit over there and keep your mouth shut, and not going to happen. Now that I understand sound and vibration, now that I understand how I can be guided and taken there, I don't have a problem meditating. And in fact, it's so much more useful for me as I'm in my day-to-day life. So when there's construction on my route, I just kind of roll down the windows, I just kind of play some good music, and I just kind of roll with it, right? You're thinking about it so much better. Before we get into this, I want to talk about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. I want to talk about fight or flight. How many people are stressed and anxious? Have felt stressed and anxious? Let me give you a better question. How many people have felt stressed and anxious in the last 24 hours? Yeah. Okay, cool. Prepping for this talk, loading up, getting the house ready, all the things. All right. How many people are busy? Like you would consider yourself a busy person. Cool. We kind of wear that like a badge of honor, right? Hey, Greg, how you doing? I'm busy. Good. And what I'm thinking when anybody ever says that to me, I'm like, they should know what busy is all about, right? And they're thinking if Craig only knew how busy I actually was. Congratulations. You're welcome and thank you. We have co-created the busiest culture I think we've ever seen. My wife and I talk about all the time, like, remember when we had like a Saturday afternoon to do fuck all? I don't remember the last time I didn't have anything to do. There's always a party, there's always a trip, there's always something that we need to knock out or get done. And these tools, I think, have really never been more important. So by default, if you're stressed and anxious, you are in a sympathetic nervous system response. It's the formal nervous system state, and a few things happen. First and foremost, cortisol and adrenaline get released into the system. And by the way, this is involuntary. The fight or flight, I was talking with Misha outside from Desert Moon Wellness. Where are you? She's not here. Yeah, there they are. She's not here. But she's a cage fighter. All right, I was just over at the UFC Performance Institute on Wednesday. Cage fighters are in high stress environments. Any cage fighters in the room? Who's been in a fist fight in the last 24 hours? Just curious. If it happened at home, I don't need to know. In the last week? Last month? Last year? Cool. And yet so many of you raised your hands that you were stressed and anxious. How many people have been in like a scary situation in the last 24 hours? One in the back. Sorry to hear that. 2. All right, look. Scary situations happen. You're walking on the strip, it's late at night, you're all dolled up, you look fantastic, guy or girl, doesn't matter. You take a walk down an alley, you're the only one around, and all of a sudden you notice somebody in the dark that's starting to come close. That spidey sense starts to go off. That's your sympathetic nervous system response. That's your nervous system picking up on something that's stressful and creating a response. That stressful response is to save your life, and it's very healthy. When I was talking to Misha, it was really interesting because she's going in and out of the cage. Somebody's literally trying to kill her every time she steps in that cage. Her nervous system response is very well trained. Not only that, but she can come down and go in and out of that on a regular basis, and she does it very efficiently. It was a really cool conversation. For most of us, we read an email and we get stressed and anxious. Or we read an email before we go to bed and we wonder why we can't sleep at night, right? Hi, we're just letting you know that your entire division is being closed on Friday. Life-threatening, but not the same as like somebody coming to physically attack you, and yet the same exact nervous system response is happening. So when you get into that sympathetic nervous system response, your brain releases cortisol and adrenaline. The cortisol makes you hyper-present on what that issue is. The adrenaline actually diverts energy from regulatory systems in the body into fight or flight. How can we defend yourself? Sending power to the quads, the hamstrings, the back, the chest. We're ready to fight or run. And by a show of hands, there were only 2 people that had even a scary situation, and nobody was in a fist fight in the last 24 hours, and yet all of you felt stressed and anxious. So we really need tools to teach ourselves how to move from sympathetic into parasympathetic. When you're in that sympathetic nervous system response, a bunch of things happen, but I'm going to go through just a few really quickly. Turns off rational thinking. Ever deal with somebody who's irrational? Can I introduce you to my 3-year-old? It's perfect, right? If you're being irrational, you're making decisions, but you're not using the right side of your brain to think about that, the rational part of your brain. Turns off your digestive system. Now all of a sudden it doesn't matter how healthy, how organic, how many supplements you're taking, where they're sourced. These are all things that are very important to me. But if you're stressed and anxious, you're not digesting any of it. Your digestion is turned off. And there's a whole bunch of issues that come from that as well. Your immune system's turned off, something that's pretty important over the last 3 or 4 years, and really every single day. Your reproductive organs are turned off. So many people are trying to get pregnant and can't, wondering why miscarriages are going up, and there's a lot of different reasons, but one of them is stress and anxiety. Out of the top 10 reasons why Americans die, all-cause mortality, 6 of them are rooted in stress and anxiety. That means you remove the stress and anxiety, and those 6 reasons for death go away. I think it's pretty important. This is like some pretty major stuff. So understanding how we can get out of that nervous system response and into calm and relax becomes really important, and obviously we've built an entire business and company around not just educating and teaching, but giving you tools that you can use to drop into that. That sound good? Cool. I think this stuff is riveting. But anyway, that's a lot. It's probably a lot to take in on a Saturday night at a festival. All right. Time we got? 6:19. Cool. So we've got about 25 minutes. And what I want to do is get comfy. If you're sitting in a seat, obviously you can sit back, you can relax. If you're laying down, now's a great time to lay down, put your head down, cuddle and snuggle with somebody next to you if you know who they are and you have their permission. We're going to listen to some more vibrations. I'm going to guide you a little bit and drop you in. And this is what we call a guided music meditation. So music moves us. Music connects us. Yeah, grab all these pillows, lay down. Absolutely. Blankets are awesome. And what I want you to focus on for the next 25 minutes or so is nothing at all. Or meditate, right? Think of nothing. It's not to think of nothing. It's to allow the thoughts that do. You cannot tell your brain not to think. Okay, this is really important. Somebody once explained meditation to me, and they're like, it's cool, just clear your mind, don't think of anything. You can't tell your brain not to think. It's the only thing that it knows how to do. So as the thoughts flow through your mind, simply allow those thoughts to flow through. Is it possible to lower the house lights a little bit? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Cool. But either way. So as you start to hear these frequencies, as you start to feel this, I want you to listen to my voice. And this is actually a live sound healing by 2 incredible human beings. They go by Cloud People. Some of you are familiar with them. Anthony Weiss and Brent Weiss. These are 2 of the most incredible human beings on the planet. You're going to hear their voices. And all I want you to do for the next 20 or 25 minutes, I just want you to lose yourself in the music. What does that mean? It means explore it with your mind and with your ears. I want you to take a deep breath in through the nose, hold, exhale toxins out through the mouth. And as you do so, all the stress drifts away. Another deep cleansing breath in through the nose, and breathe. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. 20 minutes of relaxing. 20 minutes to focus on you. You might fall asleep. That's okay. Sleep is simply a conscious perception of a change in brainwave state. And it's perfectly okay. We'll wake you up, get you moving. Deep cleansing breath in through the nose. And hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. I want you to visualize yourself in your happy place. Whatever that looks like. On a beach, on a lake, in your living room, right here, right now, on a boat, in the water, whatever that is. What do you feel? You feel a breeze on the back of your legs. Is it cold? Is it warm? What do you hear? Birds chirping? Is there a CBR 900 sitting between your legs? Maybe. Taste anything? Do you smell fresh leather? New car smell? Deep cleansing breath in through the nose. Hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. Too hard. You've been stressing too much. You deserve to relax. Think to yourself, I deserve to relax. I love you. As you listen to my voice, explore the different instruments you hear. Voice. You might realize you've never felt so relaxed as you do right now. Remember, you can come here anytime you want. You control you. Deep cleansing breath in through the nose. Hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. You're hanging out in your happy place. Is anybody with you? Do you want anybody to be with you? Sometimes I just want to be alone. That's okay. wondering, as you close your eyes, you drift into that alpha brainwave state. Your body begins to rejuvenate, begins to go through a checklist of detoxification, cleansing, telling muscles to relax, removing lactic acid, opening up detox pathways. This is actually how you're supposed to feel most of the time. Cleansing breath in through the nose. Hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. Hold. If you're lucky enough to drift into a theta brainwave, you no longer hear my voice. The brain turns off the five senses and goes into deep rejuvenation mode. Trying to keep you in alpha. Many of you are already foregone, and that's great. Takes about 15 minutes for the chemical cascades associated with the parasympathetic nervous system response to kick in. The effects can last for days. Deep cleansing breath in through the nose. Hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. Cleansing breath in through the nose. Hold. Exhale toxins out through the mouth. The person next to you is snoring. You can give them a little nudge. Or let them soak it up. Alpha brainwave state, there's no sense of time, which is why I can't drop in with you, or we'd be here all night. still with me, let's go back to gratitude, living in that abundance. Donnie talked about the importance of gratitude. When we're grateful, we're not fearful, not possible to be both things, both scared and grateful at the same time. It's easy to forget that waking up, breathing air, being at a music festival, connecting with like-minded human beings, pretty incredible and magical in its own right. Gratitude practice can be done anywhere, at any time. And it's a good reminder of just how amazing our lives are, day in and day out. That you can change it anytime you want. A few more moments. All right, we're going to start to lower the music a little bit. Should slowly start wiggling your toes, wiggling your feet. It's powerful stuff, huh? Yeah. Yeah, stretch, come back into your body. So a lot of people smiling, a lot of people dropped in. So I want to close with just a couple things while you're coming back in and dropping back in. Sound and frequency is just about everything. How many people were able to go deep? Yeah. Yeah, I saw a lot of you. Some of you were snoring. It's pretty awesome. I like snoring. I snore too. Ever wake yourself up snoring? Yeah. Ever wake your significant other up snoring? Yeah. Cool. I love you. Exactly. All right. So look, here's what I want you to take from today, okay? If you don't think of all the science and all the details and all that, I want you to think about being stressed and anxious, and I want you to think about how important it is for us to be calm and relaxed, and how at any point in time during the day, you can step out of a stressful situation, and I know how difficult it is. Really, I wish there was a camera following me around the last 8 days. Unbelievable amounts of stress and anxiety that I felt. And yet, I have the tools. So I made sure that I made time to get on my technology. I made sure that I took time to just close my eyes and take a few deep breaths. That box breathing is really powerful. And just know that if you need more, there's way more tools out there. There's talented healers and therapists, and that each and every one of us are pretty much going through the same exact thing that you are. This is like the biggest thing. One of the things that I love about what Donnie and Darren do is they talk about being vulnerable. And you see Darren as this beast of a human being. Have you ever stood next to him? He's like 6'4", 6'6", 260 pounds, solid muscle. And he talks about how challenging life can be and how stressful life can be for him. And each and every one of us are exactly the same way. We all have an ego. That ego is effort, putting in effort, tons of effort to keep you alive every single day, and that's where fear comes from. Why can somebody stand on the edge of a cliff and look down and be totally fine with it, and other people don't want to go anywhere near it, and the fear starts to kick in. They'll start sweating, they'll start hyperventilating, and then you see that guy that climbs Half Dome without a rope, and you're like, what the, like, it's like amazing to me, right? I get 3-4 feet off the ground if I don't have a rope, I'm like, not good, right? He's just trained that muscle. He has that same negative self-talk in his head, but he has said back to it, nah, we're good. I trust my hands, I trust my grip, and it's obviously worked really well for him so far. Right? It's like those guys in the wingsuit that don't jump out of planes. Who's jumped out of an airplane? What's that like? Awesome, right? Yeah, the adrenaline starts to flow, but what are you thinking before you jump? This might not be such a great idea, right? Oh, wow, I hope the fucking chute opens, right? How grateful you are when the chute opens. Anybody been in a plane where they had to use a reserve? In a parachute, they had to use a reserve? I got a buddy who had to cut away. Like, I can't even imagine, right? So we all feel stress and anxiety. Adrenaline, by the way, is something that starts to flow through the body. It's not very different from all of that adrenaline that's flowing through. Remember, when we're stressed and anxious, part of the chemical cascade that's happening is adrenaline. So it's really important for us to experience these things and to be cognizant of it. And hopefully I've given you a few tools that allows you to ease off life a little bit and kind of enjoy yourself a little bit more.